Welcome to episode 8 of CyberBytes, the podcast. I'm your host, Joseph Cooper, co-founder of Aspiron Search. This is a special episode. We've got 3 IoT security researchers who are going to talk about their cybersecurity findings. Let's dive straight into it. Chaps, I know there's a couple of us on, so I'm not going to ask how you all are, but we're going to dive straight into it and find out a little bit about you all. Charles, I'm going to pick on you first. If you can just give a quick insight into who you are, where you're from, and your background, and we'll go around the group.
Sure. Started in cybersecurity well over a decade ago. I'm going on 13, 14 years now. And I've worked in various fields over the years, auto, human resources, mostly auto, a few other medical, few other places. And my roles varied from somewhat of an analyst to engineer on up to architect. And I've worked on different systems. And through the years, I found a big issue has been just educating people on why security is important. That still exactly hasn't sunk in to the extent that it should have by now. So it's an ongoing issue. And I'm published a lot, give presentations through the Midwest, attend DEF CON every year for the last, I don't know how many every years. So
awesome.
Yep.
Nice. Paul, should we pick on you next?
Pretty much everybody knows me that's probably listening, but started my journey 22 years ago, enlisted in the Navy as an IT, continued to progress through the ranks, got some qualifications, got some certifications, my curiosities began to build. So I followed a linear path in the beginning, going from computer repair all the way up to IT director type. Got the luxury of standing up a brand new cyber protection team, first of its kind. And that was really in 2014 my introduction to real cybersecurity. And since then, retired. Did a stint as a cybersecurity research engineer. Now I'm doing more purple team. That's really the domain that I want to sit in. But I really don't have a specific area of interest outside of purple team. Just because I think, we hear that terminology go around a lot lately. There's different mixed versions of what purple teaming really is. And, my personal opinion is that is the tabletop. That is the reverse emulation with the client to show them, hey, we came in for your blue team assessment, showed you have XYZ vulnerabilities or patches that are outdated. And then, a month later, we came in with a red team and we annihilated you. Right? Let's walk through why these patches are crucial. Let's walk through why you shouldn't have this systems device or connected device, smart device on your network. And that kind of leads into today's topic with the IoT. Just got started a new role. I'm doing a lot of cyber threat intelligence. So, continuing the threat research, thinking as evil as I can possibly be. Think of what an adversary would do to somebody.
Love that. And Alex?
Hey, I started messing around with computers in my parents' basement back in the mid 80s. Did some time in the military, intelligence, communications, switched over to law enforcement physics. Because I was a computer guy, I got stuck into the cybersecurity role for a small office. ISO-ism, syshad type work. Retired from the Army, went out and did government and commercial side cybersecurity. The ISO-ism, ISI, architect, reverse engineer. Pretty much you name it on anything like that. GRC into the research and engineering tech fields, and I've done it. And, as Paul was saying, doing threat research, threat intel, doing hunting, all that type of stuff. We really just look to be as evil as we can. This device, what can I do with it? How can I use this to do something else? How can I use it to hide what I'm doing? If it's a medical device, an IoT device, if it's part of a vehicle, is there a way I can use it to harm or maim someone or kill someone? What's the worst thing I could do, and how easy is it to do it? And then, we go from there. How can we help protect it and get that information out to the manufacturers? So
Nice. Well, let's go straight into it. So you guys all work together at Stevenson Technologies Corporation. So Charles, did you all have the same roles, or was you all different types of researchers? How did that work?
Yeah, we ran the team. It as I ran it as so it'd be rather flat. So it wasn't everybody reporting up. It was more of a cohort. And then I would be the one that would create the reports at the end, contact the manufacturers for responsible disclosure so nobody got in trouble, scrub our report, so that that one would be the one we would send to the manufacturer, and then we had one internally also. But it's I wanted to make sure that each of us had the opportunity to work on whichever aspect we wanted to with what was in our skill set, but also have the opportunity to step out of our comfort zone and learn more. Too many times we get pigeonholed into a certain role, into a certain function, and I did not want that for our team. That's Alex mentioned being evil. I like to frame it more as whenever we saw a vulnerability or potential vulnerability, we treated it as the string on the sweater. And so we'd see it and we'd start pulling on it and see, did it go this way? Did it go that way? What else can I do with it? For all the devices we tested, as far as we could, we accomplished that, and we would research and test each up to a point where we were just at a block wall, and we couldn't go any further with that aspect of the test, and then we'd pivot to another piece of it. So I guess in title, I was a project lead, but I didn't want to treat us like that.
Yeah, got it. And
I guess that's a short answer.
Yeah, no, for sure. So how do you decide what devices or what IoT you're going to look at?
Well, we wanted to look at devices that were accessible to everybody. So if you went to your local, here in Michigan, we have Meijer. So if you went to Meijer or you went to Walmart or wherever, it's something that a consumer for some of the devices could just walk up and buy one and then, install in their house or do whatever. We also looked at devices that were critical to people's health, because with those should have a higher level of security built in, but too often, as we found, they didn't. And so those are some points that have to be brought out to make them more secure, so that people don't have the worry that, let's say, their insulin pump is going to malfunction, or someone parked in front of their house is going to be able to contact it and then kill them or hurt them. Same thing with some of the other devices. That was one of the other ways that we chose what to test. So we weren't given a list per se of items to test. So that's kind of how we went through it.
Okay, cool. Paul, I'm gonna ask you next. So let's pick one of the devices that you've decided you want to check out and do some research on. What example do you think of straight away that you can think this is going to be an interesting one? And what did you do to start off? Where do you even start? Do you just play around with it? Do you pick it up? Do you start sort of, like you say, pulling at it?
Go ahead, Paul. Let it go.
Yeah.
The major device that we noticed, or that was selected, that really started paving the way for us to start looking at other things, was a baby monitor. This baby monitor, it was marketed to be in the U.S. It was marketed to be patented in the U.S. And in reality, what we did first is obviously we took it apart. Right. Let's look at the internals. What's on the process control board? What's on the microchips? And surprisingly, doing that, we found a lot of the IoT devices that we were working on had Huawei technology in it that was exited from the US, 2014. But when you think about it, if I'm a bad person and I know that Huawei tech is made by bad people, and I can't sell this product, this phone anymore to the US, I'm going to repurpose the stuff that's in it. So after we found some of that is when we really started going. So Alex and I, we both got copious amounts of counterinsurgency, counterintel training, to things like the adversary. So we went that route. We went the true crimes route of investigations. We found out that this said device was, the company itself was built at a fly-by-night rent-a-desk. So somebody rented an office space for an hour, and boom, this company blew up. Tracked a patent to where the patent wasn't made in the U.S. It was actually in Shenzhen, China. So we started researching the people that were on the patent, and we found out that more people got removed, more people got added on. There may or may not have been people from Communist China Party regime that were associated with the patent. And this went from there. So once we start identifying, hey, these people are kind of suspect, that's when we started doing more of a static code analysis. No secret, I'm not a programmer, but I don't let that hurt me, because I can look at a code and I can see what is different, right? Just don't ask me to write code. I can look at it all day.
So you don't need to be a coder then. You don't need to be a programmer to do this. Okay, cool.
You don't, having coding knowledge definitely does help. Taking some of the strings of code and throwing it in something like an IDE. An IDE is where you write your code for like maybe Java, PHP, or something like that, and you write it to where you can actually execute different portions of the code. So having a little bit of knowledge does help go a little bit further, especially when when you find a lot of the padding that's involved with a lot of the string coding. But through that static analysis, we found out, other anomalies, right? So because this was being sold in the US, it said that you had to be at least 18 years or older. Stripping the code down is when we really started to find huge differences. Like in the code itself, you only had to be 13 in order to register this device. So that was an anomaly. So, and then through disclosure, when we're reaching out to this company, the person that was the tech support that we reached out to magically kept progressing in the levels of management, all the way to the point where, oh no, I am this product owner for the US. But you were just 3 emails ago tech support. Right. So it was definitely wild. The static IP as well, again, think creative and going past all these devices that we test all had pen tests done against them, right? Because a third-party assessment has to be done in order for a device to make it to production. But pen test, more than we like to say, is really automated. You push a button, you fire some attacks at it. You look at a CVE, computer vulnerability event, and you figure out if it's exploitable still. But we went further, right? Because the OSINT piece was not being done on these. And that's where we really started our niche, right? And being that true crimes type investigation where, we started putting these hard-coded IP addresses and stuff like Spiderfoot. And next thing you know, you're seeing that there's like 54 known horrific IP addresses associated with this device. And ding, 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 these IP addresses are associated with Communist China Party. And it's like, what the heck, man?
Yeah, it's super scary. Super.
That's one of the main devices, because this thing was being sold on bases, next to bases. We found through, it didn't say it on the app itself, but through the static analysis, we found that they had the ability to do voice recognition capture on you. It had the ability to do a 4K picture of you. It had the ability for home base, again, motherland China, to turn it on and do whatever they wanted to do with it. The only thing that was ever exposed on it through third-party pen test was the AWS bucket was wide open, and it still was. But we also found that there were foreign people that had US email access to AWS. So there's that whole privacy concern, right? But yeah, that was a primary device that I found personally. I wish one of these days we're going to sanitize a version of it to where we can relinquish it to the LinkedIn community to showcase it without obviously,
for sure,
on jail for, hey, that was a project you're not supposed to talk about, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, sure. Well, Alex, I'm keen to bring you in on this. And one of the main reasons I wanted to have you on as well, Alex, was particularly your background being a Leo. And you mentioned this whole true crime investigation type to the research that you was doing. Can you talk to me about how that helped and the mindset that you might have had to be able to make this a success for you?
Yeah, Paul touched on it, think like a criminal. So we kind of discussed that a little bit along the way. But honestly, once we started looking at the OSINT piece and tracking down, looking at patents and things and realizing that there's a lot of misdirection. Things just aren't true. They might say that they designed it in the US, but it was designed and the patent was held in a foreign country. It honestly reminded me a lot of fraud cases that I've investigated. So you pick a thread. In fraud, you often follow the money. And so, we followed either a person or a theoretical money trail, if you will, just to kind of pull that thread as Charles was talking about. So, the patent, it's held in a foreign country. Okay, who's that person? Let's get a patent number. Is there anything else we can find in a foreign country, related to that patent? Where's this place located? And you just start spider webbing out. Can I get any more information about this individual who holds the patent? What about the company? Can I go back through a web crawler? Is that a shell company from a couple years ago and now it's no longer there, but is there a history of it? What all can we find and how can we keep going? Basically just ask the next question. What's the next logical step? I found out this device does X. Well, can it do Y? What about Z? And just, we just kept going. So try and think of what a criminal might do with it, but also, if a criminal was setting this organization up, to sell this device and steal information from people, steal money from people, conduct international or industrial, what's the logical steps they would take to make that happen?
Got it. Nice. super scary. And the fact that you mentioned the baby monitor, it's just frightened the life out of me. I know just before we jumped on this, Charles, you mentioned the light bulb. So that's intrigued me.
Well, one thing too, Paul mentioned the static code analysis. When Alex was going through it, and he can elaborate more on this, you're looking at the code and you don't want to look at 10,000 lines. And so if you put in certain searches for phrases or variables, that it highlights those in the code, so it saves a lot of time. With one of the ones that we looked at, he found instead of Wi-Fi as a variable, they spelled it out WEYEFEYE, try to obfuscate the functionality of the variable. I'm like, yeah, that's tricky. That's tricky. That's nice. We found a lot more than that, but that's one that comes to mind that Alex found.
What sort of tools can people use to do this sort of stuff? Or is there any that are free, or are they quite expensive? Is there any open source ones?
Well, for the code analysis, we used JADX and Ghidra, which are both open source tools that allow you to expand out the APK files and go crawling through and seeing what's there. We use Kali, Wireshark. About the only thing that wasn't really open source was like JTagulator and some of those others that allow you to go down to the chip level and extract firmware.
Yeah,
nice.
That's where it really starts getting more of the complicated realm, right? And I would evoke curiosity in people, especially if you have some disposable income. I found a company called Attify, ATTIFY. They're one of the ones that have actually showcased IoT exploitation courses through DEF CON, Black Hat, several other things. And for $1,500, you get course material and every single hardware device that Alex was mentioning. Because some of these things, they do start. Hardware and firmware hacking is an expensive hobby. When you talk about a JTagulator, you're looking at close to $400 price tag. When you're talking about something, when we're doing the med tech devices, like an insulin pump and stuff like that, you need, like an oscillator, and those can range anywhere between $300 to $1,000 just for a low end, right? Because you're talking about technology that is so low on the frequency spectrum that an RF1 might not satisfy your needs. Then obviously, odds and ends, USB dongles, so if you're running Kali or Wireshark or something like that to sniff traffic, you might not want to use your internal Bluetooth for that.
Yeah.
Various reasons.
Wow, there are lots of different tools and gold there. To wrap this up, chaps, Charles, keen to find out what advice you would give. I know you've done the whole academic PhD route to where you are now. What advice would you give to folks that are interested in this space and getting into it?
I'd say read more, go to conferences. There are a lot of regional conferences also. Like in Michigan, we have GERCON, that's on the west side. On the east side, we have Merit, MMC, Merit Members. I forgot what the C stands for, but they're relatively low cost, and they're, for the price of the ticket, like I think GERCON's $150 maybe, you get 2 to 3 days full of the experience of learning. You get to talk to people who are actually doing the testing. So I think those are two big things.
Yeah.
Just and then as people get more involved in the industry and more of the work, try to train your brain to always think to the next step instead of just checking. For instance, instead of just checking the box, look at what else could be done. Think about, if I'm able to access this, well, what else could I access? What could I pivot off of with that on the board, in the app? Just building on more of the curiosity aspect.
Yeah, that curiosity, absolutely. Alex, anything from you on the advice piece?
Don't sell yourself short. I pulled a lot from law enforcement and the intel side to kind of build up how we were going about the OSINT investigation. So, use your background. If you know something about a field, that's a great place to start researching because you already have some inside information. So, just don't think because you're not a programmer or you're not a hacker, you haven't been doing this since you were 5, that you're just not going to make it.
Amen to that. And Paul, from you to wrap this one up.
I'm a very big pro advocate of, exhaust your free resources first. Especially if you've never done tech and you're trying to break into cybersecurity or IT, use your free resources before you go spend money on a boot camp or an academy, because you might find out that after spending, anywhere between $5,000 to $12,000 on something that really wasn't the career field you were looking for, right? So exhausting your free resources is going to get you out of the mindset of the blanket term, I want to get into cyber. It's now, I want to do SOC analyst. Now I want to do pen test. Now I want to do GRC. And to Alex's point too, it's get hands-on as much as you can, right? So when you're networking, don't just network to build a fan base and get free resources or handouts. Do the work. Like if you get a mentor that says, hey, go build a home lab and do this, go build a home lab, right? Because if you look at a job description is broken down into knowledge, skills, and abilities. Yes, the certification's going to give you that knowledge. But if that's the only thing you did is studied for a cert, where did you get your skills and abilities at? That's where you showcase in the home lab. That's where you showcase your project or a write-up that you've done or a YouTube video that you've done, giving a tutorial on something. Because that is really the key piece in cyber, is having the ability and the technical skills to do something.
Thank you very much, chaps. It's been an absolute pleasure having you on, and we'll catch up with you soon.